Here's our host, Kris Pierce.
Good Sunday morning, Omaha. Welcome to Viewpoint Television. I'm your host, Kris Pierce, and I may sound a little raspy. I'm a little bit under the weather, but we're going to trek through this. Today, I've got one of my favorite guests, a very good friend of mine, who you can hear every weekday morning, afternoon.
Afternoon, come on. Oh, we're real good friends. Don't even know when I'm on the air.
From 12.
This is not going to go well.
From 2, you know what? We're not cutting this. We're going to go from 2 to 6 on 1290 The Mighty KOIL. Mr. Tom Becka.
Thank you very much, Chris.
How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I told you, we're not editing this.
No.
We're going with it. We're going with it. My friend, the last time you came on our show, you tried to take the show over.
Well, it was dragging. It was dragging. I had to move it forward.
Well, and that's why we brought Chris Scott on to pep it up.
Right, yeah. That hurts. That hurts. So this is the last show.
This is my last show.
What's the deal?
Well, the deal is I'm starting a family and I got to make a living. Unfortunately, this doesn't do it. So we've had to put 2 years. I think we've done a great job. I think I've got a great crew. But if you can't put 100% into a project, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm cable access, half-ass it.
Yeah.
So, but you were a great. We had you on about a year and a half ago. Mm-hmm. That turned the tide for us. It was a great show. We had lots of fun, just like we do when I get to be on your show on the 1290 The Mighty KOIL. I'm still doing those plugs for you.
There you go.
So, but that really turned our viewership up, and we've had tremendous success, and we are at the top of our game. But unfortunately, we are all volunteers. All my crew's volunteers, and sometimes you got to pay the mortgage.
I like your show because you do. Bring in interesting conversation, great guests. Excuse me. I'm feeling fine, but my voice doesn't sound that way. So bringing good guests and good conversation, which, I really enjoy. And that's what I love about my job is good conversation, interesting people, find out what makes people tick and try to,
Well, and that's just what we've always tried to do. When I first started this, and I was actually chair of the Democratic Party when we started this project. And people thought, it's going to be some liberal.
By the way, you dodged a bullet on that. The way the Democrats got shellacked, man, it's a good thing. You weren't there, had nothing to do with it. Wasn't me.
As we had Chris Scott and Joe Jordan in our election preview, and as I told them, and I'll tell you, the best ran campaign in the 2014 season was Diane Badiato, Assessor Register of Deeds.
Yeah.
Because I ran that race.
There you go. There you go. And then she ran unopposed for the general.
Yeah, she ran unopposed. She was very lucky. And for our audience, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go. She's offered me a great opportunity to come down there, get that new office put together, because that's going to be a huge hurdle, and I'm excited about it. My wife is excited about it. So, we're starting little pitter-patter little feet. So
very cool.
But the last time, we just talked, we got to know you. But what I wanted to talk about today for a little bit is some of the repercussions from this election. I mean, we had in Nebraska, in my mind, some, I don't want to say big upsets, but, Lee Terry's no longer the congressman. We now have a new congressman-elect, Brad Ashford. And I know you publicly said that you were going to vote for him, I think, and I agreed with some of the things you said with some of the campaigning that was going on in that campaign. How do you think his, and I'm talking about Brad Ashford's, kind of his personality, how do you think that's going to fit in that Congress in D.C.?
I told Brad, I think he is either a throwback to the old Mr. Smith Goes to Washington days, or he is the future. We'll see what happens. Brad, he's old school. It's like, let's work things out. Let's try to figure this out. I'm not sure that works in the current environment in D.C. Now, that's one thing, though, I think that the voters sent a message. Look, why, you're a Democrat, explain to me, why would the Democrats renominate Harry Reid now as minority leader when Harry Reid was the very reason the Republicans got the majority in the Senate?
Well, and I'm going to have to agree with you on that. In fact, there were 6 Democrats that didn't vote for him for minority leader. One of them being Landrieu, who's now doing a runoff in Louisiana. But I think you're right. I think he held up some key votes to some things that they could really run on. I don't understand why Democrats did not run on a great record in the last 2, 4, 6 years. I mean, the economy is much better than it was before. there was I was watching MSNBC. They said a new study, more people are quitting their jobs because they're confident they can find a better job. I mean, you go 4 or 5 years ago, you couldn't quit a job no matter how lousy it was.
Right.
You had to keep, because there was nothing out there. People are starting to quit jobs because they're confident they can find a better job. That tells me right there that the economy is much better. Democrats refused to run on that. It was Peter to Jesus when he denied Christ 3 times, and that's Democrats. Well, I will disagree with Obama. I don't agree with everything. In fact, one senator from Kentucky, Senate candidate from Kentucky says, "I'm not going to tell you who I voted for, although I was a delegate at the Democrat National Convention, but I'm not going to tell you that I voted for Obama." I think that was the biggest mistake. They had no balls.
Well, let me answer this, okay? Mr. Ballman, defend Barack Obama. Defend what he has done. I mean, defend Obamacare. Defend calling ISIS a JV team.
All right, let's take one at a time.
Yeah.
I'll defend Obamacare to the point that there's very good pieces of it. And I said this from the very beginning. They should not have covered. They should not have passed everything at once.
I agree.
That was the mistake.
Okay, that's not what I said. Defend Obamacare, because Obamacare was everything at once. It was everything at once. It was a very complex,
the millions of people that now have health insurance that didn't have it.
Who?
Millions of people.
Look, I agree with things like
poor, lower middle class that were using the emergency room as their doctor.
They're not hitting their quotas on the number of people that they want to sign up for Obamacare. They're not hitting their numbers because you know what? Most people that didn't have insurance before didn't have it because they couldn't get it. They didn't have it because they didn't want it. They didn't pay for it.
No, there's a lot of reasons that Obamacare has made things better for small business. Well, larger businesses, because they've been able to co-op into these exchanges, which actually have been more competitive to the market than it was before. I mean, the cost of healthcare premiums has actually went down some. I mean, the Congressional Budget Office has said that premiums overall have went down. That's a positive in itself.
That is positive. No.
And that helps everybody.
And again, I'm not bashing all of Obamacare because I agree there are parts of it that I like.
And that's why I say I can't defend the whole thing because I don't agree with the whole thing.
But that's it. That's it. But the whole thing was sent to us, and that's it. So you really can't defend Obamacare. You can defend parts of Obamacare.
But the Democrats should have said, I support Obamacare because it got rid of pre-existing conditions. It allowed parents to keep their children on their insurance while they're in college. There are so many good things it did. They should have promoted those. I didn't hear any promotion. And you know what? And the Republicans, they just sat back. They didn't have to defend anything because the Democrats seemed to be defending everything. So that's why the Republicans won.
Yeah. Well, the Republicans also won, I think, because, look, the pendulum swings. Let's face it, okay? We've done this. We don't like it. Let's try this. And that's what it is.
All right.
I mean,
we're going to be right back.
No, I'm not done talking.
You've got 27 seconds. But we'll be right back, and we're going to continue Obamacare. We're going to also talk about the difference, perhaps, between a Governor Heinemann and a Governor-elect Ricketts, and we're going to get into some other things when we be right back.
Hair is the difference.
We'll be right back.
My son, the Cub Scout, helped raise money to make camping safer.
My son, the Cub Scout, stood up to the school bully.
My son, the Cub Scout, volunteers at the homeless shelter.
My sons, the Boy Scouts, helped clean up after the devastating flood.
My son, the Eagle Scout, helped save a man's life.
My sons, the Eagle Scouts, are defending our nation.
My son, the Eagle Scout, became a doctor,
civil engineer,
police chief,
wonderful husband and father,
state senator,
JoinScouting2012.org.
50 years!
The Boys and Girls Club of the Midland
have been helping kids like me.
Like us.
For just $30 a year, I can get
a healthy meal,
homework help, exercise, a safe place to stay after school every day at one of our 8 clubs. My name is Janelle.
And I am the Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club. We are the Boys and Girls Club! Like us on Facebook at BGC Midlands. Cox will donate $1 to the Boys and Girls Club.
Welcome back to Viewpoint, the new place for honesty, integrity, and a sense of humor. Our new host, Tom Becka.
No, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Contractually, I'm not. I can't.
Wait a minute. That wasn't trademarked. Their little motto, is it?
Yes, it is. You owe me $100.
Checks in the mail.
Yeah.
All right. Obamacare. Let's go back to it quickly. I can't defend it, but I think the Democrats could have defended pieces of it that really matter to the everyday people. Let's get out of the wish-wash.
But you take a look at the whole presidency of Obama. Look, the guy appears aloof, arrogant. He appears to be out of touch. And you'd have to agree with that, right?
I would have to agree that, as a Democrat, I will say this. I am disappointed that he doesn't, last show, he didn't have the set of balls I thought he would. Because there's, right now he's decided that he's going to do the immigration executive order. He said, I'm going to do that before the week's out. Problem is, he said that many, many months ago when he quoted, "This is the line."
Yeah,
and he did nothing. And I think,
but then it was obvious he wasn't going to do anything until after the election.
True, and that's a Harry Reid thing. That there were a lot of Democrats that I think could have voted for that or voted against it either way, and they could have kept their jobs. I think it's because Harry Reid didn't bring in the votes that a lot of people want to take. I don't think he's been a great leader. I think he's allowed the minority too strong of a voice. I know that's kind of the way it's set up, but our country's about majority rules. The majority make the rules. I mean, and now the Republicans majority will make the rules. So at the time when the Democrats had the numbers, they didn't use the numbers to get anything done. Remember, Obamacare was done in a lame duck session. You remember that?
Look, you say the Republicans are in charge, the majority. They make the rules. Not if Obama trying to just do everything with a phone call and a pen.
He can do that.
Yeah.
Well, but he can do that same thing with the veto. Yeah. I don't think anything else is going to get done. I think the Senate and the House will start to pass bills, but Obama will veto them, and there's not a veto-proof number in.
Because I think that was the message that the American people gave. I think that was the message why Brad Ashford won. Okay, I think Brad Ashford won to a large extent because of the attacks that Lee Terry was putting on him.
I agree. I think that's why Lee Terry lost.
Okay, yeah, because
the campaign lost it for him.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think people said, you know what, we're tired of this. We're tired of this constant bickering and fighting. It's the United States of America. You and I have different opinions. You know what? You're not a bad guy. Okay,
well,
you're a lousy dresser, but you're not a bad guy. And so
my wife's coming after you now.
but we have this image in like shows, like talk radio and also TV shows. It's like, okay, we got to get the most radical person over here and the most radical person over here and watch them fight, and that's entertainment. I think the American people in this last election said, we're tired of that. Just like American Idol's ratings are going down, so is that constant fighting. We want solutions. Let's make this a better country.
But do you think that Nebraska's 2nd district lost because we had at least someone in the majority with Terry? Now we have a new congressman that's going to be in the minority. How effective can he be in the minority? He can't be very effective in the minority. He's not going to be able. I don't think he's going to get much done in his first 2 years. In fact, he's going to have to start fundraising, I think, a week after tomorrow for a re-election.
Let me ask you a question. I'll ask you the same question about Lee Terry that I asked you about Barack Obama.
Okay.
Defend him. What has he accomplished? He has some seniority, granted.
He's got at least one chairmanship of a subcommittee. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a supporter of for some Nebraskans, he's been a supporter of the Keystone Pipeline.
Yeah,
which
so
now,
is Brad Ashford.
Whether or not he's going to get in or not.
So is Brad Ashford.
Right. But it doesn't matter because they're going to pass it.
And Obama's going to veto it.
Maybe. I think that's going to, I would actually predict he may pocket veto. He may put it in the drawer and leave it. Where there's no action, it'll pass. That way he doesn't have to say, I signed off on it. I really believe that. I think he's going to put it in the drawer and it's going to pass after the 10-day wait period. That way he can actually say, I was against it. That's why I didn't approve it. But the rules are the way they are. It got approved because I think there's too much support with the Keystone Pipeline across the country, not just in Nebraska. With
the labor unions, which are an important part of the Democratic base.
Yeah, and they like the jobs. Our first show was, second show was the Keystone Pipeline. And I asked Jane Cleve, give me something positive about the Keystone Pipeline, and she says, well, it creates jobs. Then she said, but it creates temporary jobs. I said, Jane, every construction job's temporary.
Yes.
There's no such thing as a permanent construction job unless you work for the highway department.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get off Lee Terry and Brad Ashford because I think it'd be interesting. I think the saving grace for Lee Terry is I think the Democrats are going to have an exciting presidential year, which will help his reelect. But and you and I both know there's a lot of Republicans that have been waiting in the wings for Terry to lose.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about, we've got a new governor coming on board. Governor Heineman was term limited. We now have Governor-elect Pete Ricketts. Do you see a dynamic shift between those two personalities?
Yes.
Explain that.
Yeah, I tell you, I became disillusioned in Heineman the last year and a half or so, when I realized that everything he did was so political and not necessarily what was best for the state. I was always a big supporter of his, and I'm not saying he was a bad governor, but at the same time, it all became too political. Take for instance what went on with the Corrections Department, what went on with Health and Human Services. Kerry Winterer went and carried the water for the governor on some of those programs he wanted to use, privatization of services and everything. When that didn't work out, basically then Kerry's sort of like left just flapping in the wind. Where was the governor to defend him? When the governor endorsed John Bruning, I asked him, I said, Governor, John Bruning has ethics issues that he's not addressed with the voters. Has he at least addressed them to you? His answer was, and I prefaced it by saying, you're a West Point graduate and you're an Army Ranger, so integrity is important to you. Has he at least addressed these to you? And his answer to me was, well, Bruning's a changed man. And it was like, really? So I lost a lot of respect for him over that sort of stuff. Pete Ricketts, I think Pete is going to surprise a lot of people. I think Pete Ricketts is a good, decent man who definitely has strong ideas on how to govern, has strong ideas on how to manage, but I think he's going to be a man that everybody, I don't know Pete that well, but I know some people that know him well, and I respect these people, and they tell me that, this guy works 110 hours a day, he's dedicated, he listens.
Do we want this to become Nebraska Inc.? Because one of the things he wants to do, he wants to run government more like business.
Yeah.
He's going to bring what he says, his business experience, his business savvy, but can government work like a business? I don't think so. I don't think a government should run like a business.
Is government working like political as it is now? I mean, look, Barack Obama's never in charge of anything before. All right, he was a politician. Okay, we've got government in D.C. that's not running like a business. It's running like a political machine. And how's that working out? So you say run like a business? Look, can he do everything like a business? Of course not. He's dealing with a unicameral. All right? But if you're in charge of a major corporation, you've got to deal with a board of directors. So you've got to deal with a lot of this stuff. You've got to deal with government regulations. So will he be able to do everything he wants to do? Of course not. What was the study of those? What did they say? 4% of the American people actually believe a politician when they say they're going to do something. Okay? Now look, Pete Ricketts says he wants to run it like a business. Great. All right? I want to play in the NFL. That ain't going to happen.
XFL.
Whatever. The point I'm making is that he can want it all he wants. The realities will be that way. Here's the analogy I make. All right, you're about to be a father, right? Congratulations, by the way.
Well, we're working on it.
Well, then what the hell are you doing here?
Because I'm tired.
What the hell? Jeez, right? If you have you're going to be a parent. And remember when you were a kid or before you had kids and you saw how other kids were behaving and you said, oh, when I'm a parent, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, right? Okay? Yeah. And then you become a parent.
Everything, you throw all that out the window.
All the things you swore you would never say to your kid, you say to your kid. Okay? So it's easy on the outside saying, I'm going to run this state like a business. And then he gets inside and says, okay, maybe I can't do it quite the way I could TD Ameritrade. But then again, every business is different too. So he will bring business principles and accountability. I think that maybe a politician wouldn't have brought. I have high expectations of a Pete Ricketts governorship.
All right. So when we come back, we're gonna talk about something.
I got one more thing I want to say about Pete, but we'll wait after the break, okay?
And only your hand was in that shot. We'll be right back.
I got more I want to say about Pete.
We'll be back. So what do you get when you cross a talk show host with this show? Tom Becka.
Hey, wait. Hey. Your last show, man. That's your last show.
It's my last show. But you want to tell a quick Pete Ricketts story.
Just a quick, because a lot of it deals with, not so much the policies and view. Is the man a decent man? I mean, like, for instance, the Brad Ashford thing. I supported Brad Ashford. I think Brad's a decent man. Not that Lee Terry's not. I think Brad's a decent man. Brad and I disagree on a lot of things, but at the same time, if I like the guy, if I think they're a decent person, I can support them. Even if they, so anyway, so when I was out of work, when I was let go over at KFAB, you find out who your friends are.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, you really can't do anything for me anymore, so.
When I left the Democratic Party, the exact same thing.
Right, okay, so you find out who your real friends are. And not that Pete Ricketts is a friend, but I reached out to everybody, because I had a lot of connections, people that I'd met. I reached out to everybody to get career advice, ideas, connections. Pete Ricketts, who could get nothing from me. I could do him no good. He wasn't running for anything. I wasn't on the air. Okay, and indeed, I endorsed Ben Nelson when he ran for Senate. So no reason for him to even talk to me. He sat down for an hour, and we talked about the media, the future of the media, changing media. We talked about politics, ideas, and discussed a lot of stuff. And it was he didn't have to do that. And I think that's the sort of a guy that we've got as governor now, a decent man who may have been easy to just sort of like dismiss as being, oh, daddy's money. But I think you've got a decent man here who's going to try to do what is best for Nebraska.
Do you think politics have gotten so tainted and just so visceral, we never really know and learn about the true people? Like, I would have never thought that Pete Ricketts would have sat down with you for an hour with nothing. I mean, and there's a lot of candidates that I've known personally that are great people, but that's not how the campaign is structured.
Here's the thing. Look, you can take anything you say, anything that was said in this discussion here, take it, put it out of context, or even maybe in context, and try to build up an argument about what a bad person you or I are based on one thing we said. I mean, look, is Lee Terry saying dang straight? Was that who Lee Terry was? No, he was much more than that. But he was defined by that statement, okay? So that's part of the problem we live in today in this world now where everything is taped, everything is recorded, everything is visible and out there instantaneously with Twitter and Facebook. You never really quite know who the politicians are. I'll say this, with few exceptions, and I won't name them right now, but with few exceptions, every politician I have ever interviewed, met, had on the program, talked to, or whatever, saw off the record, all of them are good, decent people. People I thoroughly disagree with. Good, decent people who are doing what they think is best. There are a few exceptions that I would say, but everybody I think, and you don't get that, from 30-second ads,
right.
And you don't get that from, talk radio and just, walking in the parade. It's too bad because I think most people that get into politics are decent people that really have good ideas and good intentions. Now, does the system corrupt them a little bit? Yeah. Does it change? Yeah, I think so. But overall, I think that they get into it for the right reasons.
So, are you ever going to run for office? And you've hinted that you've never put that completely out of the realm of possibility.
I used to say no. I'm not saying no anymore. And you're the second person to ask me that this week. So there you go.
Tom Becka, U.S. Congress?
No.
Governor?
No.
MUD board?
No, I want one of them Chris jobs at the bottom of the, wasn't pay well, but then nobody knows what they do.
PSC?
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, I want to thank Tom Becka for being on our show. Tom, thank you for coming.
I want to thank you for doing this project. I mean, you put a lot of time and effort into this. People don't understand how much work it was for him to do what he does. Best of luck to you in your future and the family and everything.
I appreciate that.
Good luck to you, my friend.
Thank you very much. And I'll be right back with my final word and my last 2 cents.
Listen, I think it's time we had that talk. Now, I can tell that you really like this girl, but I think you kids move way too fast. I just need to know that you're using protection.
Dad.
So buckle up, son. And no sex!
We started our journey almost 2 years ago in a small, dark, little, damp, rickety studio at the Cox Studios. In fact, our very first episode, the soundboard blew. We didn't know if we were going to have a week 2, but we did. We've struggled. We've made things work. Cox Studios closed. The team behind me started doing extraordinary things. We started filming in a library for almost a year. Now we've been in this studio for the last 10 weeks and have done extraordinary things. What we wanted to do is come together and make sure there's a platform to where all sides, all points of view were considered. We wanted to educate our audience about the different points of view and then let them make the decision. I think we've done that. I think we've done an outstanding job. But like all things have to come to an end. But I want to make sure everyone understands we're not doing it because we don't love what we've done. Everyone here has a sense of pride and compassion and passion for what we've done that is beyond words. Simply put, I got to get a job. I got to pay a mortgage, and I'm starting a family. And as we all do, we've got to put family first. But what I want to tell everyone here, I could not have done it without this team. This team has, okay, JR, I've signaled you to start zooming out a long time ago. See, even when we're trying to do good things, we don't do them right always. But anyway, this is the team. And this is only part of the team. There's about half of the people that put on our show every single week. And I want to say thank you to every one of these people. Hopefully, Viewpoint Television will go on. Could you be the next host? Who knows? We're always open to that. But with that, I want to thank you. Thank you for staying with us for the last 2 years, watching our show, making it matter. We've had great guests. We've had great discussions. And I want to thank you personally. And as I do every single show, I sign off saying the exact same thing. Remember, everyone has a point of view. Respect it.